dead on the ground, flopping around, blood spraying out like you do on the other infrared videos. All I see are FLIR videos. All I see is staged events. They're not bombing ISIS, ladies and gentlemen. They put them there. They armed them. They work for Saudi Arabia. And as usual, Saudi Arabia reportedly attacks us on 9/11. We attack Iraq. Al-Qaeda's attacking Syria. We attack Syria. Because Saudi Arabia is puppeteering this country to a great extent. It is disgusting. All right, so there's that stack of news. I'm going to your calls in the next segment. Let me just continue moving right along here. Ferguson investigates. And it's an investigation out of fusion.net. How did America's police departments lose loads of military-issued weapons? Well, I'll tell you, they sold them out the back door for money. Just like most police departments, when they do gun buybacks, end up selling them out the back door. And there's all these articles. Here's another one out today, out of CBS News. Davis City Council tells police in California to have planned for getting rid of their MRAP military vehicle in the next 60 days. The public asked, why are you getting wheeled tanks and automatic weapons for us? Which is an important question, but Congress is now investigating this. It's like blaming the TSA that's groping you when Congress passes laws to carry this out. Or it's like blaming the police when they're given the federal training. The feds are coming in to federalize police now after giving them this martial law training that turns the public against them. Then the feds will come in federalizing the police in the name of fixing the problem they basically created. It was like, oh, in Ferguson last week in Missouri, thank heaven Obama has sent Holder here. He'll fix it. Holder was clearly involved in the Oklahoma City cover-up of who was really involved. I've interviewed the Oklahoma City police officers that witnessed it as deputy head. He was deputy attorney general, now attorney general. Holder has been involved in Fast and Furious, everything else you can imagine, covering up all the trillions being looted in the last 7 years, covering up all the executive abuses, and accelerating the federalization of police at light speed. And now there's all these articles demonizing local police and all these national news stories showing police brutality and taser deaths after the federal grants paid for all of it, and the threat fusion centers and the military training and the uniforms and the doctrine and shifting away from crime fighting to revenue generating. That is all globalist doctrine. So they turn the police into their own tool, and then after the public turns against them, the feds come in as the saviors. So just be aware of the larger psyop. I'm not defending the militarization of police. I am the trailblazer on record for 19 years exposing the police state. I warned you of the COG, of the kill switches in the computers, of tracking and taxing you by the mile. I warned you of blood draws to get driver's license. That's now starting in D.C. last year. I warned you of everything because it was in government documents. I learned in 1998 of secret microphones being put in light poles from Chicago, Illinois to Austin, Texas. It's now mainstream news this year. CBS News, Associated Press. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't sit there around a black pot staring into it and reading tea leaves. This is all a technocracy takeover. I've read 5 Brzezinski books. He basically runs the show. As the Council on Foreign Relations admits, he and Henry Kissinger, the head of the National Security Council, General Jones, 5 years ago, in 2009, openly told British newspapers that they get their orders from the Council on Foreign Relations and Henry Kissinger daily. Now, the Council on Foreign Relations leadership, their central board, the rest is influence peddling and her minions and camp followers. It's been expanded over 10,000 people now. But the top 100 or so, they decide when the satellite tracker box goes in your car. It's in there by law now. They decide when the banks start grabbing your private money. They decide. I mean, here it is today. Council on Foreign Relations calls for central banks to totally openly take over the government. I'm going to be covering that. Here's another one. DOT, Department of Transportation, proposes mandating cars, broadcast location, direction, and speed at all times. And guess what? 2 years ago, by global treaty and U.S. law, all cars now have it. Oh, and we told you they would do this. I'm a conspiracy theorist. It's now happening. It is a scientific, programmed, authoritarian takeover, and we can stop it. Tepid clapping greets unpopular Obama with his VA visit speech, his first since 2011. And there's more trouble for his lordship, the front man for collectivism. Jaw-dropping revelation. Justice Department confirms lost IRS emails are stored on backup drives. But, of course, those Blackberries and backup drives were destroyed as well. Oh, and it doesn't matter how many backups there are. They will be hunted down and destroyed, and then nothing will be done. And the IRS will come and arrest conservatives. Because it's freedom. It's not Nazi Germany. IRS ethics lawyer facing possible disbarment, accused of lying. That's out of the Washington Times. Meanwhile, many Detroit residents, as much as a third of them, can't pay their water bill, so the government had been giving them free water, which in areas like the Great Lakes area should be basically free. I mean, the water just comes right out of the ground. But no, you have to pay for the fluoride and stuff that gets added, and so tens of thousands of residents are having their water turned off today, which will just further implode the entire area. But that's where we see our civilization going under globalist program. Coming up, Governor Jerry Brown announces the collapse of California and the untimely end of the United States. So that's all coming up. Just a ton of news today. The IMF head has basically been indicted. Again, you're going to be taxed by the mile in your car and tracked everywhere you go. Oh, but the NSA is not spying on you. The government just had a 2 decades-long program globally in a global standardized corporate government by 2013 to have tracker boxes in all the cars' bellies that the car won't operate if you remove it. Think of the concerted, premeditated effort that from Australia to the United States in the last 5 years, smart meters have gone in on the sides of everybody's houses to track everything you're doing inside your house and to dial into all the other, quote, smart Trojan horse tech to track everything you do and use that data to corner economic markets and manipulate prices. See, a lot of folks say, well, I don't care if I'm getting spied on. So what? I have nothing to hide. Well, why don't you leave your doors open at night then? Why don't you not, close your blinds? Oh, you want privacy. Well, that means you're a criminal. Government's more secretive than ever, but all these corporations with government are moving towards establishing a private, corporate, global government where they're above the law, they're exempt from the regulations, they're exempt from the red tape, then they saddle you with it as a tool of political control. This is a short segment. I'm going to cover news and come back with your calls in the next. Since I mention this form of corporate global government, there is a story up on Infowars.com dealing with this, and let me just go to it now. It begins. Council on Foreign Relations proposes that central banks should hand customers cash directly. So they've already given themselves conservatively $200 trillion just since 2008 and the banker bailout. No, it was a lot more than $876 billion. That was the Federal Reserve open window. That was only one move. When you talk about SDRs and when you talk about free credit being given out to the big 6 central banks, it's over $200 trillion. The total of derivatives they've created, according to USA Today, 3 years ago, we haven't gotten new numbers since then, from the General Accounting Office, is 1.5 quadrillion. That's 1,500 trillion. Over 100 times all the real wealth in the world. And that's what they've signed us on to. Americans have been signed on to over 70% of that debt they claim we owe. When you hear about 18 or 19 trillion in national debt, that's what they currently owe and what entitlements and real debts are. That's our real debt. And you could extend that out to 200 trillion if you look at the whole life of those entitlements and Social Security and the rest of it. So, but forget, that's off the table. Derivatives are what these bankers have created, and they've used that to buy up the world through fraud. Now they're about to drop the hammer and devalue, so they're going to start sending out, they're discussing checks from the Federal Reserve, so that when they basically privatize the economy under their total control as a solution to their already mismanaged program, you'll be all for it, thinking, hey, they're the guy that give me free money.
The empire.